to be fair, chosen was Pacific Rim, not Decision Games. Sorry about leading you on, but it was, yeah, and it was far worse than this. This, I feel like it's playable as long as you don't give a damn, cheat a couple of rules and don't worry too much about trying to optimize the counters. Maybe this is okay. It is painful though, pawing through this many counters to deal with the specific strengths and stuff. Even just counting them all for a combat and such. It's an obnoxious way to represent the situation, and I don't see a whole hell of a lot that's gained by it. What would make a lot more sense is maybe if you have a strength point in each clan, you can grow it by a strength point. But again, the clans aren't that differentiated. It's very hard to read them. So here's something or other, and here's something or other else, right? If they were nicely color represented, maybe that would help a little bit, even just some little dots and symbols and stuff. But it's a pretty busy map already, in part because of the point-to-point nature of it that just makes it kind of unattractive and busy to begin with. Anyway, that's what I have to say about that. So I kind of guess I know what I'm doing. I moved some of the Jacobites here into position, threatening Stirling and Perth. Perth's important because Perth and Dundee are two of the places I can declare the king in the central northeast. Charles could also do it in Aberdeen, and I'm going to try to force march into Aberdeen. I've already moved 4 movement points, but I got the opportunity to do more. I gotta find. Here's the table. I don't think it's winter. I get a -1, but I take up to a quarter loss. Well, up to 20% losses here. Okay, 4. I'm going to take 15% of my strength points and losses, which, I round up and I calculate out of however many I have here. Maybe I could have used gold. I don't know. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that would probably be 2. Right? No, more than that, right? 10%. Yeah, it's going to be 2. So I got to kill 2 more points off of there. Now, I had to already detach a leader from here. And what I'd like to do is, lose people who are closer, so they don't have to worry about trying to cross this shit, even though I accidentally took losses on McDonald, who can't get there, who can't cross easily, thinking maybe he was McDowell. And McNeil took losses too. Here's more McDonald, Mackenzie. I mean, I took losses off all the wrong people. So it's terrible. It's what's going to happen when I'm playing this. It's too hard to associate clans with particular locations for me. If you really know where your clans in Scotland come from, this game will be a little easier for you. But honestly, that's a level of detail that I don't want to get involved in when I'm playing. A simple point-to-point should be like aerial movement. It shouldn't require, too much, especially when there's so many spaces. It shouldn't require too much knowledge of what's where. Of course, the simplified system is you can raise people wherever they are in the clans, but that causes a serious difference in the balance. They suggest it as a rule. Instead, we have a serious penalty in balance for the Jacobites because I can't keep track of who's where. Probably people were saying this game is fucking unplayable. Who's going to want to do this? And the designer was like, oh, okay, well, you can just ignore that rule then, instead of trying to come up with some kind of solution. And there would be solutions. There would be perfectly easy solutions that could be done if you got away from the individual clan unit counters. There are other ways you can handle this that would have handled it perfectly well. I know some people talk about it as though, and I know I'm ragging on this one point, but it really is one of the things that, and the way the counters are presented with their little dots, which is also a shitty idea. But I had a reason for saying. I don't remember what the fuck I was going on about. I mean, I know what I was going on about, but I had an answer to how it would all work. Oh yeah, where you allow a certain number of expansions each turn that could be grown to certain clans, instead of just, well, you can either have, I know what I was talking about. A number of people talk about how historically realistic this is and everything. It's not terribly playable or fun, but boy, if you really love the history, this is going to be great or whatever. What it doesn't do is it doesn't provide you with that sort of link-in direct feeling of the history that a simpler place design would allow. What it does is it clutters you up with spending most of your strategic thought being wasted instead on picayune shit like trying to find who's where. It's the same kind of people who seem to think a good OOB is, well, it's a historically great game because they got the OOB so carefully researched. Yeah, no, what's more important is to capture the systems and stuff like that. And the level of detail that those are being presented at in this game, the way the combat's done, etc., doesn't lead me to have any real strong feeling that there's a historically accurate system in play here. Might not be bad, but it certainly doesn't deserve the level of detail and attention that coping with these clans and where they come from makes any sense at all. Again, it's kind of like, oh, you have to have the exact right unit designation in the right places at the start, or the game's flawed somehow. And, they spend all their effort on that and put a really shitty combat resolution system in play, which, might be believable, but it's like, yeah, who cares? Who cares what the designations are if the core system is so abstracted that, it just kind of doesn't matter. So this is, by going there, I can now declare the king, and that does a number of things. First of all, it rises the intervention level up to 3, which says I can do something new. French Royal, Scots at Croix, and French leaders. Now, I rolled a 3, which came out to a 6 on the +6 table. That caused me 6 losses and a 2 retreat. So I forced the government Scots out of Aberdeen, but I took really heavy losses, and that may end up being really problematic. The other thing is, they start getting these guys, who might be this stack, might be something else. I hope it's not. I hope it's, I don't know what the hell this is. I think these come in 74. I'm sorry, 1745. Yeah, being dyslexic there for a moment. Although they kind of look like these others in the sense that they look like they have to do with declaring the king in Lowland Scotland. But there is a rule or an errata that says about this, only the units in Edinburgh are under that. I get the feeling these were supposed to be, but who knows, who cares? Again, real effort to get things precise in terms of where specific clans are, because the burden there is on the players to get it right. But when it's a burden, that maybe, hey, we were supposed to get this chart right, and we don't want to do that much errata. Screw it, man. Let's just say this. All right, whatever. Actually, don't rise right now, I don't think. I don't remember. I mean, I'm basically spending the game flipping through this rule book, trying to find things that are special rules in this pile. And man, so right now I am declaring the king, right? After reinforcement but before movement, I may move any of my northeast central, those which appear in any grant after reinforcement. So this has to be the turn following in which I enter these, but I have to do it in specific spaces. So I guess if Charles is still in that space at the beginning of next turn, I can do this. And I've put the pieces back. That does still raise a challenge for the Brits, but they can't land in Scotland. So unless these guys can get up there, which of course they can, 1, 2, 3. Nah, not unless they force march. Uh-oh. I have to roll the attrition, which I forgot about, ran down and started making tea. But I did want to get back to something before I roll that, and I'm not going to roll that on screen, which is sort of the nub of the problem, is that the essence of the decisions I'm making are not the ones that anyone in the command level would be making. They're actually, yeah, which units do I want to take the most losses on? Who's going to take the most losses because they're easier to recoup and stuff like that? It's very much, I don't know how to put it, a decision-making and a picayune type of decision-making. And you can make the same kind of argument if you're looking at OCS. You could say, wow, you're really like focusing on supply. That's not what I'm into. That's fair. That's a fair argument against OCS, but supply is something someone in the campaign is focusing on to a greater degree than you're focusing on in that game or in that system. With this game, what you're focusing on is something that's completely gamey. Who is going to take the casualties because they're the people who recoup because of where I am, you know? Who am I going to assign them to? A little bit more reasonable, where am I going to assign the forces so they're near where they're supposed to be? That someone might make a decision of that sort. Of course, they're probably more likely to defect the closer they are to home, i.e. just wander home for a while, miss the battle, whatever. Yeah. But, so it's again probably not a reasonable argument, but it's one that you could at least try to make. But what you cannot make is, yeah, you know, I think the McDonald's are going to hold off fighting because they come from so far away that they're not really willing to die. And you could try to make a hand-waving argument for why they might be outside of the combat, and it wouldn't be very believable, but you can try. But no one's making that decision, and that's kind of the important thing. The decisions that I make as a player, for a game to be historically accurate, realistic, believable, whatever, those decisions have to be decisions which map to something someone is doing. You know, Eisenhower, Guderian, they may not be making the decision as to how to set up the supply net, even at a high level. But someone in their command is damn well doing that. No one in the command is saying, yeah, you know, I think the McDonald's ought to avoid combat and just sit back here and encourage everyone and somehow benefit them that way. Just because, well, we really want to take losses on the McPhersons instead, because they're more likely to show up again. Really, what the fuck, you know? The English are force marching out of Stirling, and they took some losses, a couple of units, a couple of strength points, in order to see if they can hit our Aberdeen. And this may be the game here. So what we have is 2, 3, 4 strength points against, wow, that's all that we have left. 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. What did we say? We had 4 here. 4 to 16, both sides have artillery. So that's going to be a 4 to 1. Sorry, 4 to 16 is plus 12. I'm used to odds being important. They're not here. We both have plus 1 due to artillery. We both have a plus 1 leader. That's all she wrote, right? Except for if the Highlanders get to charge, which we doubt they will. All right, so we got a 5, no mods, 4 2x. All right, so the Brits are going to take 4 hits, and the Jacobites are going to only take 2, but they have to split into 2 forces and retreat into both these spaces, I believe. I had only 4 strength points, I thought I had more. So Charles is out there, and no, I only took a 2x. Shit, I don't know. Yeah, fucking counters. All right, I gotta figure out what the hell is there. The advantage of the crown for the Jacobites, nor of ending the game by killing Charles off. Pity in both cases. Although Charles wouldn't be enough, I have to get the old pretender too. There's no easy way out of this, is there? Yeah, I could just quit, but you know, after all the fucking effort setting up, I've spent more effort setting up than playing so far, which, you know, made it a fair amount of turns in, right? Yeah, setup is quite heavy. Between setup and looking up picky and little rules, it's been pretty fucking painful. Anyway, that brings us back to the Jacobites without being able to declare king, but I got a clear route to Dundee or Perth. I can probably take Stirling because it was left denuded and leave the Hanoverians up here. There are less there than there are under Wade. Wade's not able to move, of course, because he doesn't want to. Oh, some Jacobite aligned reinforcements show up here in Flanders, but I still can't sail out onto the east coast. There's too many Hanoverians there. Likewise, I can't sail from here. Charles, and in this case O'Sullivan, came to screen him, are trying to prevent Charles from falling, basically, but running back. We got some forces heading this way, which, if I can disperse them properly, we'll be able to recuperate to some extent. But on the other side, Athol has taken Stirling Castle. He killed the leader there, got the siege guns, the armaments, etc., which I guess is cool. I don't remember what money's good for. I think it affects attrition. We had no problems, except I forgot there was a siege. And our result was, I think it was a 4-4 result, which means since there wasn't a retreat or an X result in it, I don't have to pillage, so I don't lose additional men. But I did lose some strength, which I hope I recorded. And now we're on the Hanoverian side of things. And again, you know, it's a question like it was before. Now I'm holed up in Stirling Castle. That's going to be almost impossible to take. So I think we're going to go chasing after Charlie back here as we can land some Brits probably down in Berwick or something and get more force applied on him. Wade is, of course, the problem. He probably can't move. And we got more reinforcements coming somewhere or another. Friends, push some troops in. I've got these guys trying to form up. I think I gotta keep looking at these damn charts. Every time I get reinforcements, I gotta look at them. And it's just a fucking headache. It reminds me of things like Labatt and Der Weltkrieg, where there's just huge order of battle crap going on. It's just not what I want to deal with. But anyway, eventually we'll get done with it, right? And get on to where we're just playing. Anyway, these guys may be forming or they may be able to increase. I don't know which it is. These guys are definitely forming. Over here, we've got Argyle, who's attacked, and I hope I've taken my losses already off him for attrition. He had to run fast. I didn't want to go here. I didn't have enough strength points to overrun. I missed by 1. I'm hitting O'Sullivan here. So I've got like, I don't know, some quantity of strength points. I think it's 13 to 4. That gives me a +9. But leadership bonuses, I'm essentially at +2 due to these. I don't know about Cav. I don't think I have 5 strength points of Cav. I don't want to look it up, but I think I have an artillery. I just don't want to paw through my pieces. So I'm at +3. But there's a river that puts me at +2, and there may be a mountain. No. Okay, so I'm at +2 on something. I think it was +9. I roll a 3. That means the attacker takes 6, the defender takes 4. Well, the defender can't take 4, so he's wiped out. And we make a leader loss check and see if we lost him. So now, in the channel ports, I'm supposed to get some stuff, and I don't know what the hell it is. Oh, Gordon's down here. Okay, gotcha. Well, that says Gordon. I don't know what the fuck that is. Lord Gordon appears at Aberdeen. Okay, so up here, not the most useful place. And we get these others in the channel ports along with some arms. And we can bring all that over actually, and the channel's open, so we can slip through as long as the English don't sail out and catch us, which they may well. It's really dangerous to try to slip away. These are luckily privateers, so maybe they can get out of there. Maybe not. Okay. And I can put these guys all in the Jacobites box because they are all available. That's kind of the distinguishment I'm making. The units up here are not available for use because I haven't declared king. Now, the question is up here. So here's what's interesting. So either these appear 1st of October in Scotland, all this shit, or they don't. And that's what's not clear. Now, if you look at this, they're very much of the same type as declaring the king in Lowland, Scotland, whatever. But they show up in different areas, like this is central northeast. That would be these guys who show up on declaring king. Lowland on declaring king. Yeah, I own Edinburgh, but I'm not there. On the other hand, we have only those forces listed as available in Edinburgh are contingent upon declaring the king in Lowland, Scotland. Which seems to imply that forces that I've already sorted out thinking they were supposed to be contingent forces are actually real reinforcements. Now that's fine, I'll hunt them down and put them out as well. That's what my setup is. The problem I have right now is that my forces are kind of weak. I have a numerical advantage here if I force march just with these even. 1, 2, 3. I can't get any further than that. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's as far as I could get there. The alternative that I have, though, is, to gather my forces and then try to trap the Hanoverians somewhere without hitting them hard right away. As you can see, attacking is not necessarily good. You might take worse losses than you're dealing out. Now, you certainly will if you're attacking at poor odds, but even out here, you can see iffy die rolls and whatever can cause quite a bit of loss. And in some cases, the retreat, even the rout, can cause you more damage, especially as the Highlanders start dissipating, which could be a real problem. However, the faster I get rid of this force, the faster I can spread out and start recruiting my troops again. I'm not sure where I'm going yet. I have to look at what the numbers are like in terms of, are these units going to dissolve, in which case, well, they'll kind of come back anyway, and I can send leaders back to get them. Of course, we're getting losses of leaders, and I feel like the leader losses, kind of as unlikely as they are, I think they only happen on a 5 or a 6, are cutting into the capability to grow new forces. So that's kind of a problem. It's wrong. Leaders are lost on a 1 through 4 if they're captured. We had both the Hanoverian leaders killed here, and the territory was taken. And, well, we had a bunch of these recruiting, so I get to, wrong way. because I didn't want to move them. Yep, a lot of fun there. They're all in their home areas, so that's easy enough. And bonus of bonus, I forgot. I can get some ships out. Yes, they can be hunted. Here, do I want to chance these guys out? I mean, this is the problem, is landing, you know, with privateers. Man, the English can go hunt down whatever this crap is, and I just don't want to try doing it. And obviously, if I sail out here, I'm in hell. You know, I mean, as long as the Dutch ports are a major part of the Hanoverian sort of supply line of troops, there's going to be ships coming in and out of there. The only benefit was being able to open that up, and then I can start rallying forces and trying to move them. But geez, when I declare king, I don't know. That may allow me to gather forces again, which would be a good reason for the Hanoverians to get some ships back out there. I guess I have an attrition roll to make, and I don't see spending gold on it because I'm all alone now. Carefully trying to keep Wade's force larger than anything else is kind of a problem. I can't send this big Hanoverian force, including George, into York, or Hull and York. That's going to have to operate on its own, and I can land it somewhere like Berwick or something. But yeah, I basically have to keep my forces kind of small comparatively. Of course, the Scots are so wiped out at this point that maybe that's okay. We'll see. Shifting ships around. I've pretty much, you know, I'm trying to get troops from Ireland, etc. At some point, I'm going to go blockade the north again, though, and just try to keep enough forces floating around in the English Channel and the East Coast to keep the Jacobites from being able to take a chance on moving, you know, the stuff they have. Yeah, they could try it, but somewhere, sea combat table, I mean, you know, if I can get 5 strength points there, 10 here, it pretty much bottles them up. They wouldn't even dare take the chance unless it is absolutely vital. Right then. So at this point, it looks like Charles is going to try to spread out, maybe stomp these Hanoverian sympathizers up there that showed up this turn, and build up his forces and declare the crown. Those are his goals. At the same time, he's got to worry because George is coming in. And these guys are going to come up. Wade, who knows? You know, Wade should be like up in the north, not doing anything, not in London, not doing anything for the game. And as we come to the end of the October 2 turn, Wade is finally moving. Some extra recruitment back here. He dropped good armaments off to increase it. Not terribly valuable, but, you know, in terms of, hey, these are really backfield units, because Wade's moving. If he wasn't moving, he would be gathering them up later, but I got to get him as far north as I can to try to actually do something. You can see George has landed. This Ligonier or whatever is moving his way forward. Those are both big enough stacks. Now, you can see the Scots, the Jacobites have moved their main force north. Chucky's declaring himself king, which will bring something together. I don't know what exactly, but it's like I can't screw around with trying to figure out, you know, optimal times to declare things and stuff in terms of absorbing my units. If it turns out to be a horrible time, I'll delay it a turn. Like, I've got a lot of units here, so like when I look at the rules, I might say, maybe I didn't want to do that. The problem is he doesn't have a very large force here. He has a lot of resources. He's got some troops, but and I don't really want to be facing one of those larger well, one of those British Hanoverian stacks coming forward. But I also wanted to spread out, and these are new units coming in, but I wanted to spread out and kind of get some of my production into play, and as well I want to kill off these units up here. So that's what's going on there. The real problem is this funneling of troops and trying to keep track of everything, which is why I'm just like, yeah, I'm declaring the king maybe, you know. Still afraid to move any of the French fleets out, although, oh, that one came out. But there's so many of the Hanoverian and Dutch fleets floating around at this point. It would be really good if I could get some French into the British Isles, then the Dutch all disappear and Hessians show up here, and then they have to get funneled in. But, you know, if the Hanoverians can lose some of those Dutch instead, that would be a huge bonus. I don't know what else. One thing you may have noticed, yeah, I've kind of mellowed out a little bit. I always make my peace with games. Chosen, which I referred to earlier, that's one of the ones that didn't make it. But it's one of the reasons that I do play things out instead of just, this is fucking ridiculous. I say it's fucking ridiculous. And I mean it. And like, it's just such a headache to get to this point. But eventually I come to a point where I stop bothering with all the rolls. I do what I can, see what happens, and cope with it. But honestly, I think that the mechanical aspects of this game make it so that anyone who's not really more attentive is going to have a very, very hard time playing it well enough to get any kind of accuracy out of the results they're trying to get. I mean, look, the people who play tested this, you know, or design it or whatever, these are people who probably spent way too much time looking at the game and got used to it enough that they're like, okay, well, yeah, I do these things and this all works, and hey, it kind of works, you know. But a game like this, I think, is highly unlikely to ever become such a favorite for anyone that they would put themselves in that kind of intensive play situation. And that's why blind testers are so important, because they'll look at it and say, this just doesn't fucking work very early on. They'll say it's too much work. And obviously they probably got some of that the input in terms of, yeah, well, rally, you know, your Jacobites wherever you like or whatever. But there's a middle ground. You know, there's a middle ground. For example, the rule could have been you can rally one Jacobite clan unit in each space in a given turn. That would work, you know, or you can gather one strength point in each clan each turn and just use strength point markers or something along those lines. These things would work. Instead, they opted for something that, you know, until you're fixating on the game and getting really used to where the clans are and where you want to have each stack positioned so that you can easily spread your clans out and, you know, then rally them back together. Well, you know, you're going to get very different play between someone who's approaching the game the first time and those few people who maybe this is sort of such a perfect game that they want to work harder for it. It's just, to me, it's not a good solution. It might be fine if you're designing something that people are going to get crazy, you know, about being competitive in. But I think when you look at, you know, the Jacobite uprising, yeah, that's not something that's going to grab a lot of players to begin with. Let's make it as easy as possible for them to actually play it. Not necessarily strip away the chrome and all that. Although the way the chrome is scripted into this is problematic as well. I think there could be easier ways to handle that as well. But, anyway, at least I get to push some pieces around and see what happens. The units that show up from declaring the crown, and a couple of them are conditionals that I have to roll on. Maybe there's possibility that non-Jacobite forces will show up in their place. I have to declare the crown for them to show up. I can gather them, but they're all weak strength if I gather them. And they're pretty much all that gets gathered is whatever's in the northeast, which I think I'm better off falling back and recruiting as the Hanoverians work their way forward. So that's what I'm going to aim at here. And the Jacobites were successful here at Monroe. Well, what is this? Dornoch in the Monroe clan in destroying, some of those pro-Hanoverian forces. But they took more losses, of course, than they dealt. They fighting small forces. You bring too much with you, you could lose it all. You could lose it all anyway, right? Because the differential, the losses aren't based on how big the forces are. They're just based on the differential, and there's 6s in all of these. So you have less than 6 troops, you might lose because, oops, or at least lose the force you had. But you can see we have a fairly large pile of forces. I've got Charles back here. I gotta look, see if I can fit into Sterling there. I don't think I can get hit. 1, 2, 3. So they can get 1 box in that direction. So I don't really have to worry about it right now, but at some point I have to start worrying about, hey, where can I fit numbers like that? Spreading all the Jacobite leaders around to gather the clans because I want to have them at full strength rather than just a bunch of 1 strength point units that, would all be in one place. Instead, I think it's better to give them a couple of turns. Unfortunately, I don't have any armaments there. Trying to slip by here. We'll see if it works. Not that badly outnumbered, but these ships could come up and fight me, and that would suck. And let's see, I don't know what else. It's not like I have much there. I just have the privateers, and those can't really be captured as far as I can tell, if capturing ships is allowed. On to the Brit turn, and I think this will be my last turn for the day. Yeah, we're making, pretty good headway into the game, I guess. The biggest item of interest is the consolidated British fleets failed to take the privateers out here. They didn't find them. And moving north, forces accumulating elsewhere. I don't know. Gotta be careful. Because this is only like 25 strength points, and these guys are 19 and 20 each, so I can't pick up too many of the forces that are in my way until he picks up more. Now, I did land another pile of troops here, and once I can connect those up with Wade and get his force big enough, then I can go around and maybe pick up some of the others. It's not a good idea to leave things empty. Ah, shit. And I'm probably screwing up because I've got garrison requirements that I'm not fulfilling. Fuck that. I know I've got some here. And I think that means I'll sail this fleet in here. Wade couldn't have moved out is basically the problem. But East Anglia has them too. And I've just been shifting forces that I couldn't have moved. Well, I'll try to recoup that. We enter November, and gosh, I don't know if that's winter. You gotta look up the roll on that because we might actually have some attrition. If it is, the Jacobites continue. First of all, they wipe this out. I don't know how much it's going to do because I think those things can just keep coming back, even though they're just detachments. I'm not sure. Normally detachments wouldn't, but these are special named detachments. Probably just toss them and say that's been cleared out. It's going to be nothing but a headache. But we've continued increasing our forces, trying to consolidate, but it's hard because I want to get the maximum punch that I can. I think I've got enough forces here with Murray However, if he can combine these two forces, if the Hanoverians can combine both forces on Stirling before I can get a bunch of Scots down, yeah, that will cause problems where Wade's frozen and these guys are frozen and all kind of real problems happen unless we get routed or something. But it'll also, because I can't split the force in order to make it a smaller force. The only way I can move those units is if they end up in Wade's space, and Wade can never move if those guys exist. So there'd be basically, I might be surrendering the entire game if I end up with a stack like that. And of course, the Scots could just bypass that force and leave it alone if it ends up so much larger than Wade's force, which it would at this point. So that's probably a really horrible idea, but eventually Cumberland would come in, Wade gets supplanted, and the English army could move again. But the Jacobites could do whatever they want throughout England without any effect on anything, as long as they leave a larger Hanoverian force unable to reach Wade. Yeah, that seems screwy, but it's just one of those, you lose the game if you combine them, So I guess we won't do that, but because London would be very easy to take in that case, I just march down. There's nothing that could get in my way. Of course, a huge garrison could be put in London as well. Just gather everything up. But I think I've got enough force here to prevent either any Hanoverian force smaller than Wade's from being able to win the battle. It's close, but I've just got so many advantages. And then the navies are shifting around. I've got to tell you, I know I've harped on mechanical issues on this before, but dealing with lots and lots of units recruiting, pain in the butt. They don't look that different between their two sides. There's a little bit of shading difference on the designation box, and that's it. Oh, these guys sailing around here, they're not safe yet. This whole fleet could go chase them. Now, some of that fleet may want to land somewhere in order to disembark, but yeah, I've got to make that decision in terms of, those excess troops mean nothing to me because I don't have a leader for them, and the leaders that are up there can't take more troops, basically. So maybe it's better to go sailing around and shooting up privateers if I can. These count as privateers? No, these are Jacobite warships. And yeah, and I'm still frozen behind, the huge fleet at the Dutch ports. Ireland's empty now, so I don't have to worry about getting fleets there. So basically, I just plug up the ports, and there's not a whole hell of a lot that can be done. It's not like the French Navy invading. The privateers just don't have much chance of surviving either when there's fair-sized fleets out there. The winter doesn't affect attrition itself. It affects the forced march table. And instead of giving some kind of color coding or a note on the table, it's only in the rules. It's months with 2 turns instead of 3, or winter turns. Had to go look that up. Not a good thing to do, as few lookups in the rules as possible should be there. And with a game, this game kind of really goes against that, but just because there's so many lookups already, with the scripting of the initial raising of the clans and all the different things that are involved in that, that doesn't mean that you should make more than you would expect from other things. If there might not be a solution to that, although I think there could be, but there's a fair number of charts here already in place. Skirmish combat table, which is used in one scenario, that could have been put in that scenario instead. But anyway, there's a fair amount of charts that have been used, so I can understand why, like, a clan, if they got away from the individual clan labels, they could have done something very, very reasonable with the with the raising of the clans. Just say, look, there's points that are here. Because of the way the detachments work, you almost have, and the fact that you can attach and detach, you can detach them from something. You now have to keep track of the something they're attached to, and then you can attach them to anything. But basically, what they want to make sure is that you're not using detachments to give yourself more strength points. Well, if you just have a strength point limit and some clan-based, accumulation of reinforcements in each location, that would handle all of this very nicely comparatively. Just have a force pool limit or something. But nope. And that's the cost you pay for. I want units that represent specific things, but I want them to be completely flexible in terms of deployment and everything, where you can break them down as much as you like, more or less. There's a countermix limit on these detachments, so you don't really see that happen. But I want them to break down as much as possible. I want them to be as flexible as possible, because there really was no, attempt to keep a clan or a regiment completely, as a discrete object. It could be split up. It could be used as needed, pretty much as flexibly as was desired. But on the other hand, I want to keep that designation, and I want to keep track of who's actually in it. But you can permanently assign them to other units. It's just, there's just such a conflicting. There's no reason to be tracking the clans and the regiments. There's none whatsoever that I can see. There would be much, much simpler gameplay by taking that aspect away. But, there's this school that believes, well, if you don't have the proper unit designations, you don't have a realistic game. And what a little big news there is. Trying to keep up with my garrisons, remembering those. The fleets chased the privateers again. They failed again. Basically, I think they did like a 3 or higher this time. I don't know, but maybe it was just a 2. Edinburgh fell. Too many troops to go in there. Some additional recruits, including stuff up here, units that were killed, the Scots regiments. And I'm pretty sure you can't re-recruit these things. They're just additional troops for a one-time use if they show up. And what else? I guess the biggest news is Cumberland was on the map. He came on this turn. He's out at sea. He lands in England. Wade's no longer a problem. I can use Wade however I like. I can use all the forces however I like, which means, as soon as Cumberland shows up, I can start consolidating and trying to fight. As of right now, the Jacobites have not been they haven't progressed very far. So I believe by the time Cumberland had come in, they had done quite a bit of damage already. I could look to see. Let's see, 1745. The scenario 1 ended quite a while back. I believe Edinburgh had to be taken by then. If I can find the victory conditions for these suckers. Yeah. They should have had their forces consolidated at Edinburgh, even if they hadn't won the siege. Now, the invasion of England won. I don't know where that ends. That starts in 1745 October, but I have to get into some of the English territories. Now that'll be ending in December, so that's coming up pretty close. That's here. And obviously, We still haven't made it to Edinburgh, so, you know, we had issues, and they're my own more than anything else, just in terms of attacking and not realizing how damaging combat is here. Winning combats is really, really painful, especially for Scottish units in the Highlands, because they disintegrate. They go home with their booty. All right, anyway, that's the end of this turn, and we'll just keep plodding along. Okay, Murray's slowly gathering units as they begin to recruit to full strength. He's got quite a pile here. It may be about an equal fight between him and all those Hanoverians if they come in. Can't really be sure. This turn, Cumberland should be landing though, so all kinds of things get freed up. There's a lot of strength back here, but it's still building up. It's hard to move location to location. Some of it's cut across the water. These guys aren't. They look like they have a land connection there. That's probably a water connection. It's hard to discern between the two types of connections. Again, part of the graphical design problems with this game. Or with my eyes, I'm not sure, but it looks hard for me to tell the difference between, you know, here they look okay on white, but on greens and blues, they all look a little, you know, they don't jump out. I don't know how much they should, but they don't. And let's see. Well, we'll see if I think Hanover's going to slam into him, and we'll see if which way the battle goes. I realized French intervention was indeed at 3 where it was supposed to be. I declared the king up there. It's hard to keep track of these things because you gotta, you know, well, here I had to look all the way over here, but it was northeast central region, and that was done at Dundee. I did that. I thought I didn't do it because then I thought I had to declare the king because later on it's the lowlands one. I haven't done that yet. So that's the 4th point. 3rd point meant that I need dudes in southwest, 3 in southeast, and 2 in East Anglia, which meant Wade had to break some units off for East Anglia, and some of the units that I was shipping had to get moved, and I may have made a mistake. Now, I would love to do the battle on video, but because it's kind of an exciting system where there's rounds of combat that could happen, etc. But the problem is that you have to maintain a total running count. I guess you can do it the same way as you do like an EU one, and maybe I'll count it up and come in when that happens. And oh fuck, I had reinforcements. Well, gotta disposition them and figure out what's up with them as well. And maybe I didn't have to move all my stuff. Plus I have to check a naval unit that I'm not sure. I may have sent too many ships with this unit and not have enough transport. I don't think that's the case, but we'll see. So because we got such a mess over here to pull out and fight with, I've thrown a standard in Stirling, and we counted up the strength points, and there are 42 Jacobite. Now, we don't know how many of them are Highlanders. We didn't look that up. That's actually an issue. Special rules for Highlanders. How many am I allowed? My bonus, it's got to be more than 50%. So 4, 8, they're not. So I'm not going to be getting any Highland charges. So the Highlanders probably will not be taking the offensive. There's 39 Hanoverians, allied forces, 13 of which are kind of crap, which means there's, I think, a -1 for a quarter. If I go to half, no, if it's entirely untried, it's -2. Okay, so we've got a differential of only 3, -3, which puts us to the -4 table. Leadership brings it to -2. George versus Murray. Now, there's no real advantage to leaving George out of the combat because I get to pick whichever leader gets killed, as long as I have a bonus leader with me or has a chance of being killed. So there's -2 for that. We both have artillery. Sterling is not in the mountains. So yeah, it's -4 at -2, which doesn't sound good. Now remember, it's hidden how many units you have, so that doesn't really matter. Oh, cav. 6 strength points of cav here. Most battles there aren't enough. Looks like 6 here. That's going to be an even cav. So yeah, -4 at -2. We roll a 4, that goes to a 2. And that means it's going to be a retreat with no losses. Now, a retreat means that I lose some Jacobites, right? This was not a routed, so we don't defect, but the Jacobites defeated the enemy. I get to lose 1 strength point. On the bright side, though, I take their cannons away from them. And cannons only count as 1. Oh no, it's per point. Hold on. So that actually negated. He only has 1 cannon. So that negated. So it actually went to a 4. A 4 is the attacker takes 2, the defender takes nothing. So we take no losses there. We take 2 over here. I'm going to take these losses on Dutch. Although you might want to say, hey, why not take it on the crap? Yeah, but the Dutch, not bothered by this. So now this goes down to 37. We're not allowed to leave, and we're not allowed to stop attacking. We're allowed to stop attacking only if Charles wants to swing it. Now, I don't want to zone out on these charts, but I don't think the advantage is ever to the attacker, so I'm going to continue defending, which means we're now at a -5, which puts us at -6, and we're at even. There's no diagonal modifications because of the excessive artillery that they brought. Even with a 1 is a 4R0. Okay, so this is bad. So we just took 4 hits there, and R is just a retreat, it's not a rout. All the cannons are captured. We're going to have to lose 1 strength point. We'll lose that off of something. We'll take it off these lowlanders. Actually, we really want to take it off of the Murray forces, so because we're in Murray's home area. So we look at all the commanders to try to find Murray's unit. There it is. So that goes down to a 3. But he took 4. Now, we did not get the route. Wherever that is. I don't know where that is anymore. Yeah, it's a routed result. Okay. Great. And it wasn't many rounds, it was 2 rounds. The Brits have to retreat, or the Hanoverians have to retreat. And what did I take as losses? Did I count them? I did not count them. So I have to take 4 more losses. I will take 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, I'm killing the Dutch off because they go away eventually, and they also cause they get recuperated back here. I've got tons of stuff to ship over back there, but whatever. They won't count against the troops that I'm trying to rebuild in England proper. And I guess that's it. I guess we fall back to Falkirk here and see if we get it back there. If I hadn't already done it, and this is really a pain in the ass for the Scots, I have to look through all my pieces to see if any are flipped over and then recuperate their points. Oh, I have a couple still here. So like these guys, they change from a 3 to a 4. And of course I try to change them to a 2. And again, I count that in on the why the game's not historical, because you are almost guaranteed to make mistakes with the flipping of counters. Do we all fit there? I don't know. 5, 6, 7, I don't think so anymore. So we'll take that out of Berwick. you start introducing a lot of potential for mechanical errors into a game. And this is not a situation where being used to the game really helps you terribly much. You get into a position where they're just going to happen, you accept them, and they're part of the unrealism of what you're going to see as a result of it. I'm going to send this one up. That's the end of November as we enter December. This is the start of scenario 3. I'm supposed to be in Edinburgh by now, right? Or was that 2? Maybe I'm supposed to be in England by now. Supposed to have already invaded England or something. However, it was a successful battle. Forces coming down. The goal is London. It doesn't, speed isn't necessarily a big deal. There's a lot of time in this game to make up for the slower start that my Scots Jacobites have had. And now we have all these cannon, and we're going to be able to probably blast our way through that thing. We'll see. But it looks kind of bad for the for good old German Georgie.